Hi guys, this is Omer from MMOHut.com, and I'm going to do another quick weekly recap of MMO news and announcements for the week ending November 7th. And as you can see from the video playing in the background, the first piece of news that we're going to take a look at today is that Bloodline Champions will be free to play. Now, the 3D arena style PvP MMO is published by Funcom, who is actually best known for Age of Conan and Anarchy Online, but developed by a company called Stunlock Studios. What a cool name. Now, the game was originally intended to be released as a retail game, much like Heroes of Newerth, if you've heard of that, but they recently announced that they would be going free to play with a cash shop, much like League of Legends. Now, gameplay wise, you could say it's a bit like League of Legends, in that you have heroes, you fight in arena, but it's not the same, because you don't have nearly as many RPG elements. But the game is skill based and pretty interesting. Unfortunately, there is no official release date for the game yet. The next piece of news that came to us on November 1st is that Lord of the Rings Online will be going free to play in Europe starting November 2nd. Now, I know this isn't exactly a new piece of news, but there will be official EU servers on the Codemasters service for the game starting on November 2nd. So if you couldn't play on the North American service for some reason, you can play on the EU only service, which means you'll get less lag. Next up, guys, on November 2nd, Perfect World Entertainment announced that Forsaken World Closed Beta Phase 2 officially begins on November 24th. And if you wanted to play the game in Phase 1 but you just couldn't get in, you can probably get in on Phase 2. You can get beta keys for the game on MMOHut.com/giveaways, and Phase 2 closed beta for the game includes many more updated contents, if that even makes sense. It'll basically include a higher level cap, many more dungeons, new quests, professions, and a lot more stuff to test out. Now, there's still no official open beta release date for the game, which is unfortunate, but closed beta 2 is supposed to be open to many more peoples. Up next, guys, Entrive USA, the US division of the much larger Korean developer Entrive, announced on November 3rd that they would be changing their name to SG Interactive. Now, this is most likely because they got bought out by a larger company, but they'll still continue publishing Pangya, Grand Chase, and Trickster Online. In fact, now that they changed names, they said they would be launching more games in the near future. Now, Entrive will still remain Entrive for the time being, but in the future, they will be launching a new game portal called SG Interactive. No worries again, guys. All your characters, items, and stuff will not be affected. Up next, Battle of the Immortals patch 1.8 is launching in North America on November 10th. Now, it's not a huge patch, but it's adding a new dungeon, the Shadow of Manor, which is an area designed for level 90 plus characters. Plus, an area called Mount Olympus will be added. Plus, plenty of little changes like new class skills, new zodiac pets, and new guild functions. You can also expect a lot of other little changes. The next bit of news came out on November 2nd, and it's pretty sad. Apparently, Soul Master will be shutting down on November 16th and relaunching 6 to 8 months later. Apparently, Games Campus wasn't too happy with the game, and they claimed there wasn't enough content, there was a lot of bugs with the game, and they'll be taking it offline, and then they'll wait 6 to 8 months for the game to be entirely redeveloped, and then it will relaunch. You can see the official message on gamescampus.com, but it's always sad to see a game shut down, even if it's going to relaunch later in the future. I kind of wish they just, introduced updates slowly over time so the game wouldn't shut down, but they will be shutting it down. And the music in the background for this video is so epic. I'm not sure what will be happening with the Game & Go version of the game, which is EU only, but we'll soon find out. Next up, guys, IGG announced a Harbor Blockade update for Void Century Online, and if you haven't heard of Void Century Online, it's called Bounty Bay Online in Europe. The game mixes both sea-based gameplay with land-based gameplay, much like Uncharted Waters Online from Netmarble. Now, the new update will be adding new ships, a restructuring system, new high seas instances, new quests, and much more. Plus, IGG will be kicking off the update with server-wide events. Now, when exactly the update will go live is unannounced, unfortunately. On November 5th, guys, EA announced a brand new Battlefield game just called Battlefield. It's a 3D modern FPS, and it's supposed to play a lot like Battlefield 2. Now, this is definitely a major announcement because this is EA once again embracing the free-to-play genre. I've talked about EA in the past, but I think EA is doing an awesome job in just making a lot of free-to-play games. Unlike the previous free-to-play Battlefield game, Battlefield Heroes, this new Battlefield game will feature realistic 3D graphics that looks a lot like Battlefield 2. And I'm going to tell you guys, if the game plays like Battlefield 2, it's going to be awesome, because Battlefield 2 was one of the best FPS games out there, in my opinion. Now, the last bit of news that we're going to take a look at is that Iris Online's second closed beta test begins on November 5th. Now, the second closed beta will last until November 12th and will feature a lot of new content for you to explore. Now, probably the best part about the second closed beta for Iris Online is that you won't need any beta keys to access it, and this time around there's more stuff to explore too. Unfortunately, there's still no official open beta date on the game. And if you haven't heard of Iris Online, it's a really interesting 3D anime-inspired game with really crisp graphics and a unique tarot card system and gypsy theme. Well guys, that's it for MMO news, but for upcoming games, Genesis AD, the FPS published by Iggy with crazy sci-fi wall jumping elements, will be released in the open beta starting November 9th. Now the pre-open beta test began on November 4th, but the real open beta begins on November 9th. Now I already made one video for the game, but I'll be doing a first look when it actually comes out. If you're a fan of FPS games, you definitely want to give Genesis AD a try because it's definitely one of the more original FPS games out there, especially since you can cloak, wall jump, and boost across the map. Well guys, that's it for the upcoming games. I know there's only one, but as for recently launched MMOs, we have Drift City first. Now Drift City was on the Iggy servers for quite a while and it shut down over there, but Games Campus picked up the service and launched the game on November 1st. Now the Games Campus version of the game has actually more content and more stuff to explore, and players could have transferred their characters from the EG version of the game to Games Campus. One cool thing about the Games Campus version of the game is they're rewarding players for transferring their characters to their service with a bunch of cash shop items, which is kind of neat. The next recently launched game is Dynasty Warriors Online from Area Games, which launched on November 3rd into full open beta. Now in the open beta phase of the game, there will be no character wipes. On top of that, Area Games added 3 new weapons to the game: the Sword, the Tyrant's Sword, and Ninetales. 4 new player ranks, 2 new co-op missions, a bunch of other little features, including original Japanese voices. I should mention, Dynasty Warriors Online is available worldwide, so there are no IP restrictions for the game. Well guys, that's it for MMO news and announcements for the week ending November 7th. If you want to read any of the announcements I talked about, head on over to MMOHut.com/news. Anyway guys, this is Omer, signing off. Later guys.